RPGs are one of the biggest genres in video games, and crafting is one of the biggest staples in these RPG games, whether that's literally in Minecraft, or it takes a more of a backseat role in games such as Skyrim, or any other RPG worth its salt. Yet somehow in Knights of the Old Republic 2, my favourite game of all time, I decided to completely ignore it this entire time. So how else was I going to get used to it, except forcing myself to only play this game using crafted items? The rules for this terrible challenge are quite simple. I can't use force powers that deal damage, I can only use items that I craft, however I can use certain items such as the plasma torch or other quest items. I can also only loot components or items found in component areas and then break them down for components or chemicals. And of course my companions have to follow the same rules as me because I just decide I don't want to be happy anymore. But let's start with everyone's favourite planet, Peragus. If you crash, I must. Oh, you can't see the crash, but my god, it's done it again. Oh, I've not saved. Yeah, so this went on for about 4 hours and I simply just gave up and decided to reinstall everything and start again the next day with a brand new character and a bit more optimism. And Peragus flowed just like normal. I met Kreia, I met Atton, I quickly shift to T3 M4, I get absolutely shit scared by these droids, and I then get blown up. The underground bit goes just as well since I can't really attack anything, run through this gas and look at this weirdly bugged out door for some reason. I've never seen that before and I don't think I'll ever see it again. But after escaping with our lives, we see this dead body and this totally friendly looking droid that I'm sure won't hurt us in any way, shape or form.
Greeting. It is a pleasure.
But for the first time in Peragus and in multiple times I've played this, I've never been happier to see the workbench since I can now make stuff and I'm no longer defenseless. Upon stepping outside and having the biggest speed boost known to man, we're followed up by the longest cutscene known to man, for we got to watch this ship dock for what I timed as 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which was absolutely ridiculous. I find another workbench to upgrade more stuff, because as a child these turrets absolutely ruined my life, so being able to sit back and just hit them made my life so much better. Then we keep pushing through, we find this room that's absolutely filled with chemicals, so I can actually make med packs instead of just waiting for my health to slowly regenerate over time. And now we actually do pick up Kreia, we then go get Atton, and we bump into that definitely not hostile droid.
Greeting. It is a pleasure.
And this fight should have been a big indicator that I was going to have problems since he caused me quite a hard time during this build, and it was only going to get worse. See, I play a modded version of Knights of the Old Republic because I'm not playing the vanilla version after 20 plus years, but one of the mods I have gives assassins lightsabers, and that went as well as you can expect. That's fucking... And we're doomed. I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Oh god. Oh look. Oh look. It's just one. I can take one. Ooh, maybe I can't. No, don't switch weapons. Don't switch weapons. No, don't switch weapon. Re-switch weapons. Oh, fuck me. I don't see anything. Oh, I was so wrong. Oh, I was so fucking wrong. I heard the lightsaber noise, and I can see the lightsaber. He's already mid-swing. I'm not even... Oh, God. There's hope! So after all that, naturally I abandoned the old woman to fight a man made of absolute concrete. My guy then has a complete aneurysm, thinking he's losing his hand. We then find T3M4, which at the time I was ecstatic to find, only to realise that he can't actually create items and he can only upgrade them, so naturally he becomes the ship slave as per usual. Pushing on forwards and flawlessing the turret section, I am absolutely done for Peragus, which is obviously everyone's favourite planet, except I then get to move on to a planet I hate even more. I will die on the hill that Telos is a worse planet than Peragus, but I do finally have clothes, which is an upside. To make this easy for everyone, I'm going to go through Telos almost as quick as humanly possible. We start with beating a man to death, we then talk to a hammerhead, we could actually craft weapons, we talk to another hammerhead, I skip this entire section of a quest because I don't want to do it later, I beat some men to death, I beat some more men to death, I steal this robot, I flirt with an alien, who younger me would have absolutely died for. Like a true simp, I then beat men to death for her before then beating her to death. I then decide I'm going to make peace with Cthulhu because I don't want to fight him and reassure that the hammerhead sharks are safe. Then remember that entire droid section I decided to skip? Well, this is exactly how it plays out now.
What? Because...
I then leave the hammerheads, realise they're being attacked, and then go back for the hammerheads. I discover that there's an evil version of me that wants to kill them, so naturally I kill him, and in that time Telos is done in about a minute of me speaking. And the worst of Telos is yet to come, because now we have to do the surface, which we do get to meet Baodor though, which is probably the only good thing here, since he actually does a lot of damage unarmed because of his hands, but he also can craft all our items for us, which is very helpful in this run. As a kid I hated this area and I couldn't do it, and as an adult I still can't with this challenge, since we have no armor, we're really weak, and because our weapons are bad we do almost no damage. It also didn't help that my companions were also just doing stupid shit like this almost the entire time. Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't look at me like that. What is your fucking problem? No, why are you running off? Go on, tell me he's dead. There it is. So after watching my companions have the average IQ of a Twitter user, we finally get inside the base. And then Baodor proceeds to show me that he is in fact a Twitter user by simply not beating down this shield instead of opening it. But the one thing that makes Telos worse than any other planet is this guy right here. If you've ever done this quest, you'll know exactly what I mean. Your entire point is to guide him out of the station, which should take you about 30 seconds, you're just running to the start. However, this man is so buggy, a 30-second quest took me almost 5 minutes. We work our way through and we eventually have to fight this giant boss, which is this robot the size of a house, which we spent a minute fighting because we just kept missing. For some reason, after being shot down once, we trust Atton to not get shot down again, which he promptly fails. But we do get much more HK droids that totally won't kill me. And after 10 seconds, when they wipe my entire team, you can actually just sprint into the polar region and go into the base without having to actually kill them, which was helpful because we were simply too weak to do it. Inside, I meet a woman from my past who totally isn't evil and isn't going to be part of a giant plot twist later. And we also get to fight the handmaidens, which is kind of cool. And a fun thing, you can just push them out of the ring to beat them if you're too weak, which I was. But once we leave, we adopt the best girl, handmaiden, who 8-year-old me was absolutely in love with this part of the game. I wonder why. And before we do anything else, we head to Dantooine to get Baodor influence because I really want him to be a Jedi. Now before we progress any further, Visas Mara attacks us, which was absolutely a mess for me because I still wasn't ready to fight anyone with any sort of capability, so I just run around in circles firing and hoping she never catches me. But onto the planet we're going to be doing first and spending way too much time on is Nar Shaddaa, which was by far the longest planet on this run. And what a better way to start a planet by being degraded by Kreia like my first ever girlfriend.
Why did you do such a thing?
Handmaiden's getting dragged around so I can farm influence on her. I also turn Atton into a Jedi. I also realise after getting bodied by Serico thugs that I'm in fact a glass cannon build, except I'm yet to actually find the cannon part. At this point I also realise I can't actually craft armour at any point, so I'm going to have to rely on battle precognition, which essentially just boosts my defense using my wisdom modifier. But only if you're wearing nothing, so this is actually useful for me. But unlike on Telos, I actually decide to kill Cthulhu. Then it goes as well as you think since I'm absolutely weak, and it didn't help that Atton decided to drag half the map towards me. And also for some reason in this fight, I just teleported across the map, which did not help me. But then I get the cutscene telling me I'm going to have to actually do the main quest now. But before I do that, I decide to do my favourite pastime in real life, which is gambling. For the first playthrough ever, I don't send this guy to his death, so I actually have to beat him. I also definitely don't have sex with this alien instead of beating her. I also modify a robot so I don't have to beat him. You can actually do this entire section without actually beating anyone except the champ. But when I beat the champ, he gives me a card that I also will never use since I'm never going to play this game again. I also use Baodor here to craft actual weapons that I can use and also actually finish building the lightsaber even though my character is never actually going to be the one to use it. In this battle to save my companions, I also realise how much stronger my person is defensively than my companions, which I realise is going to be a problem when I can't use my playable character later. To deal with this realisation and depression, I decide to go in extra weak against the handmaiden in the cargo hold. Hopefully I don't get dominated here. Sadly for me, I then have to do the rest of the Nar Shaddaa quest, so I simply run forward and this redhead calls me an idiot. We watch Atton spend time with two ladies, and because he's mildly autistic, he decides he has to kill them. Also a fun fact, if you stand behind the bar, they can't get you. Skipping back to my guy, the redhead proves I'm an idiot by drugging me, who my guy just blissfully is unaware that's happening. She then proves to be an idiot by getting captured herself, which then my guy has to run over and save, and this was just a really long area where I had to hit people and then wait to heal. I then almost died to this random dude because I just wasn't paying attention waiting to heal, which would have been really annoying because I hadn't saved yet. But this place was also filled with chemicals, so it did mean I could then craft more med packs when I found the lab station. In the maze section, you have no use for your map, however it's made simplified by just doing the old method of just turning left. Just take every left and eventually you'll get through the maze. Since I have the Mirror or Hunha mods, I can pick who I want, but because I'm light side, I decide I'll keep Mirror, and we then do the method of running through the mines, except it does no damage to Hunha, which was a bit of a problem. I settled on shooting him, but after all my shenanigans before, I was pretty weak when the Calf Hounds actually came out, so to avoid them, I went straight to the Beast Tamer's key, got the key, and then for some reason, instead of going through the door to leave, I decided to just kill myself with a grenade. So, having to redo the maze and redo the fighting bit again, I decided just to shoot Hunha, so I actually had health when the Calf Hounds came out. But because I had health, I decided to try and be smart and kill some of the bounty hunters with Mirror beforehand, and I almost died because I get stuck on this invisible wall. Yes, KOTOR 2 will always be buggy. So I simply run to the terminal because I'm simply too weak, and if you touch it, it just skips you to your Exile. Luckily for me, as Exile, I do a lot more damage than Mirror, and I pretty much just one-tap most of these people, and even though it does get a little close every now and then, it's a lot easier. But if there's one thing I don't like about Restored Content mod and Nar Shaddaa, it is the Force Companion Battle section. Essentially, you've got to take 3 companions, 2 of them being Atton and Bayador, to go fight a bunch of bounty hunters to try and save the Exile. The only issue is it's just really long and drawn out. And I try to be smart and go to the workbench, however all the doors are locked, so that idea was completely ripped apart. Once you've done that though, you get to do the T3 part, which is in the main game, and oh no, there's a puzzle, thank god I don't have it memorized. And then I get to fight these HK droids, and this is where the unique arm thing comes through, because if I didn't have the shock arm, I was never getting past these droids. However, being a fool, with the Atton Mirror and T3 part trying to fight back to the Ebon Hawk, I simply just die. And I didn't save, so I've got to do it all over again. So we go through with different characters, complete T3's part once again, and this time actually don't die whilst fighting back to the Ebon Hawk. And honestly, the main game's actually better for not having this area in. Don't get me wrong, it's a great XP farm, but it simply adds nothing to the game. However, after doing all that, I do then get to send 2 people to go save the Exile. I choose Atton and Bayador, and this clip will summarise exactly how well all of that goes.
Optimal ratio achieved.
Yes, for the first time ever, I actually went around Goto's yacht and getting the programs because I was that weak, I was too scared to actually do anything. Don't get me wrong, once I've saved my main character, using the programs was kind of cool. I used the minefield here to reset it and used the mines to blow up the droids instead of fighting them because I would have simply lost if I did. But getting off the yacht, we adopt this robot that definitely isn't Goto himself. We then go towards the Jedi Master, who has the worst mustache since 1945. But 6 hours later, yep, it took me 6 hours to do this entire planet, Nar Shaddaa is finally over. Before I leave Nar Shaddaa, however, I do talk to Kreia to choose my prestige class. Since I don't need anything else from the Sentinel path, I pick Weapons Master because I'm dual wielding pistols, so basically just a Jedi Guardian on steroids. Oh, and I also fix HK-47. But once again, we return to Dantooine, and we speak to this woman who is grey. We then speak to a man who is grey. And then we go into the Jedi Enclave. And I won't lie, I expected this area to be absolutely horrible. I mean, as a kid, it was awful. The Langriks would absolutely beat me down. But since we're using blasts instead of melee, I actually kill most of them before they even get close to me. I also found the reason I never play as a female character. Mikal. Or Disciple, but since I've got Party Swap, he joins me anyway. But I treat him like the middle child and pretend he doesn't exist, and that's for the best. Then I go to the next area is the Crystal Cave, which basically is worthless to me since I don't have any lightsabers, but I do get a pet rock. I take it because I claim this is a unique item, so it fits the rules. I also save Master Vuk, who then decides I'm a piece of shit no matter what. He is essentially the biggest hater. Apart from Igor. God, I love Igor.
Curse you, Bail!
But after leaving the cave and telling these guys to go fuck themselves so I can get Handmaiden a bit more influence, I then have to prepare Kunda. Basically, I fix some droids, and that is essentially all you can do to fix Kunda. I then give a speech better than MLK.
I don't have the words. That was really something.
And I'm immediately followed up by going completely deaf from the gunfire. We then, even though we haven't lost a single unit, get told we've lost too many men and have to go inside, and I easily kill them all. I then pick this dialogue option and the game just completely crashes, and I have to redo everything again. You'd thought I'd have learned after Nar Shaddaa. But I killed them all again, and this time pick a different dialogue option so I don't have the same problem, and that is Dantooine done in about an hour. Honestly, the planet compared to the first game is completely neglected. But before I leave Dantooine, I decide to do the dialogue to make Mira a Jedi. And I also once again go into the cargo hold naked with Handmaiden, and because I'm autistic, I still don't see this as flirting after 3 times. So instead of seeing this as flirting, I make her a Jedi. From the second shortest to the shortest planet, we're now going to Korriban, and when we're on the way there, Mira sort of just stands here really awkwardly in silence, which makes 3 of us now have autism. And naturally, like any normal person, the second I see a dead body, I decide to rob its corpse to spawn some giant lizards. It seems like a perfectly fair trade. And I make my way to the Sith Academy, where the Sith Assassins are now stupidly easy compared to how they were on the Harbinger. And we get another test, which, if you haven't learned by now, I will have it memorized, so I actually know what all the answers are. I've spent far too much time playing this game. But it gets better. See, I find a room full of starving animals and decide what is a normal thing to do is just to kill all of them instead of giving them any sort of help. But then it's like my birthday's come early since I find a dead woman in a cage. Yep, this is this Jedi Master's entire story. If you don't have the droid planet, he simply is just dead in this cage. I followed up by fighting Sion, which I prepared for thinking this was going to be awful, and he is surprisingly easy. This then gave me a giant false sense of confidence going on to the next part of Korriban, which is the Hidden Tomb. And I'm just going to let this play out from the first fight when you meet Malak in the tomb. My God! Also, if you didn't know, in this tomb you don't actually generate force points, which means once I've used my force powers to buff myself, I can't rebuff myself, which made this a lot longer than it needed to be. And the entire point of the tomb is just you dealing with your past, present, and future. But I'll be honest, I only came here for one reason.
Apathy is death.
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 Statement. Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
I also learned that if you die, you get dark side points and you don't actually die. I've never died here before, so this was actually a revelation to me. But since I'm doing a light side playthrough, this is essentially kryptonite to me, and it cripples me getting max light side points. And this area was a complete waste of time since I got no items, no experience, and just got given dark side points. I decided it's time to go after the last planet of the game, which, if you're keeping track, is Onderon. Before then, we decide we have to go to Nar Shaddaa because we've got to make Mira a Jedi, because the completionist in me demands that this happens. Now, if you've never played this game before, Onderon starts with you not going to Onderon. You actually get shot down into Duxon. And there's the immediate problem I have where I can't use Atton and his auto-revive exploit, so I have to take Mira and Beodur instead. And instantly I encounter this weird bug where Mira becomes Beodur.
You thinking what I'm thinking? These jungles are filled with long, narrow paths, dumb beasts that just keep charging at you. This place is perfect for mines. If the carcasses were worth anything, you could make a fortune.
I've never seen this before, and I don't think I'm ever going to see it again. Also, for some reason, the droids were just doing stupid shit like this. So naturally, I then proceed to kill some bug people, and then I watch another droid do this. On my adventures, I find a dead Mandalorian, so logically I follow that up by following the ones that are still alive. And it turns out I have to prove myself to Mandalore if he wants to take me to Onderon. So the first thing I do is the best activity in this area, which is the battle circle, and I'm just going to show you how to do this really easy. Yeah, it's exactly the same as a Handmaiden. You can push them out the circle and it counts as a win. And this is all I did because my character has absolutely no defense and I'm weak as shit. And I followed up by doing some really good deeds. I refused to kill this man-child. It's the first time I've never not killed a child. I save a man from starving to death. I rob this monster of its ear, and I also learn the most pointless force power in the entire game. And if any of you ever picked the prestige class version of this force power, I genuinely hope your pillow's warm at night. But I return to Mandalore and let him know that all his people are useless, and I completed something in 15 minutes which they've spent their entire lives not being able to do. We then get jumped by a bunch of assassins, which for some reason this fight went on for about 10 minutes before these random 10 decided to jump me at the end, and then the fight just kind of ended and I was rushed away. And I have to take Bail-Dor to Onderon. Why, you ask? Because I'm a completionist, and it demands that I make him a Jedi, so I need more influence points. We also unlock Mandalore, who has the worst specs in the entire game, since his feats are built to be a range character, but he's stats-wise, he's built to be a sword user, so naturally, I made him a sword user thinking he's going to be useless. Spoiler, he becomes the most useful companion in my entire party. Now, we're on the run to meet Dagon Gent, who's going to set a meeting up to meet Kavar. However, he's been arrested for murder. Now, if you've never played this before, this might sound really cool. You're in a planet on the brink of a civil war, solving a murder case, sort of kind of like Manan, where it's got two giant entities fighting each other and you're solving murder cases. The issue is I've played it before, so it's simply a walking simulator. So you run to his clinic and then you run to a tower you already walked past. You then run back to where his clinic is, run to the canteen and talk to a man. Leave the canteen and look at a spot, go back to the canteen and talk to another man, go back outside and talk to a robot about a piece that you can then give to another man in the canteen. Once you've talked to that man in the canteen, talk to a different man in the canteen, so you can talk to a guy outside the tower to prove that this guy didn't murder a man. Then you talk to Dagon Gent back in his clinic, who sends you back into the canteen to talk to this woman to kill someone. And then when you kill the woman, you leave the canteen back out in front of the canteen to talk to the man. Also, as a side note, you have to do a little side quest where you get to give visas to people. I gave it to this Republic guy and a family just so I could get Bail-Dor influence points. But after that, we go to Dagon Gent, and he says we're going to go speak to the man. You'll never guess where, it's the cantina. And in the cantina, we essentially have no conversation with the man because we get attacked by some people, and then we have to leave the cantina. And essentially, you just fight your way out until you get to the ship. Because you have your visa, you can just leave, and you fly away. And that was Onderon done in about 30 minutes. But when I get back on the Ebon Hawk, Bail-Dor is having a weird orgy with about 3 different robots, and he gets really depressed about it. So I finally make him a Jedi. Then with that, I've made every companion a Jedi. I'm sure I'm not forgetting anyone that's really insignificant and is basically a middle child. But we're instantly recalled back to the Mandalorian camp we just left to do the rest of the quest since we have no more plans to do. Basically, if you've never played this game, once again, I'm going to explain it to you. You have to split your party into 2 sections. You, Kreia, and another member of your choice will go to the palace, and 3 other companions are going to storm the tomb in Duxon. I, Cecilon, Bail-Dor, HK-47, and Mandalore, and you'll be thinking, why have you gone for HK? Well, because Remote just had this little buff where he can heal other droids, so I thought that's going to be really useful. Bail-Dor's just been made a Jedi, which will be useful, and Mandalore actually showed me he can be competent, so I just decided to bring him along. The only issue is that I'm only using crafted items, and if you didn't know, you can't craft anything for droids except weapons, so HK-47 is just going to be taking the full damage at just full pelt, which means he's just dying constantly. And you might be thinking, well, you just said Remote can heal droids. Well, spoiler, he heals no one. He didn't heal me once this entire thing. And even worse, Bail-Dor was still really weak. I was essentially carried by Mandalore in this entire area, since he was the only person who wasn't just getting 2-tapped by all the enemies. I mean, the tomb is kind of cool. You get these puzzle boxes where you have to do maths or simple little puzzles to unlock the things. Obviously, I have them memorized, so I do it really easy, even though I can't use any of the items inside. You also have this dark side energy that you can bask in, and it will essentially buff your character even if you choose to embrace or you choose to resist. Also, you can repair some of these droids. One does damage and one will follow you around and heal you. This healing droid was my life and saver in this area. And in this boss fight where I had no hope, this droid was basically the only reason I survived this area. And you may be thinking I'm mentioning this droid quite a bit. Well, I'ma show you why. See, after the droid and the final boss fight, we went to Onderon, and you can hardlock yourself out being able to complete Onderon. You may be asking, how do I even do this? Well, simply don't have a lightsaber and don't have Bail-Dor. This is a problem because of this simple force field, where you have this little prompt up here. I don't have a lightsaber because I scrapped them all except the other one that's on Handmaiden, who I didn't bring with me, and obviously I don't have Bail-Dor because he's in the tomb, so I'm going to have to reload a previous save. And well, it turns out my first attempt at the tomb was going to be my most successful, and I'm just going to let the gameplay in the background show you why. Why the fuck did I just teleport now?
Systems failing, master.
Yes, in the final attempt, I do have to use that medical droid to carry Mandalore since my other teammates are completely worthless. But this time I pick up Frida Nar's lightsaber, which I'm going to class as unique because I don't hurt anyone. It's going to be allowed because I don't want to bring Handmaiden, and I can actually get through the sky ramp. The palace is kind of boring. You just run from one side of the palace and then you run all the way to the other side and then you go into the throne room. The throne room is cool because you essentially just get to this little battle meditation scene if you have the force power, and it basically means all your soldiers on your side will win, which is, well, cool as fuck. But after we kill Vaklu, because I'm light side, I decide not to kill him, which Kreia calls me a fool and Vaklu calls me a giant pussy, so naturally he dies by firing squad. But after having one final conversation with Kavar, and this being the last Jedi Master, I can then go back to Dantooine, my favourite planet. So I'm back for the third time. I spend one last time looking at this workbench, and I strip Kreia of all our items for no reason in particular. We go over to the Enclave, and for some reason they've managed to make an entire building within the space of a day. And I have Atton in my party here, and when I'm inside, well, he just completely disappears. And we go meet the Jedi Masters, and I can't lie, I actually really enjoy this entire dialogue between them and the Exile, and then Kreia. But after watching me kill the entire galaxy, they decide they're going to try and cut me off from the Force, like that didn't happen to me once already. Naturally, Kreia decides she's had enough of this, and we just pass out for some reason. She also then one-taps all the Jedi Masters and calls them weak fools before scolding them for ages. She then cuts them off from the Force, which basically kills them. I won't lie, this absolutely made her look strong as fuck, which is annoying considering in the rest of the game she was absolutely worthless for me. She also then decides to wipe our entire party except Handmaiden, and they somehow manage to get to Telos even though they don't take our ship and we don't know what ship they actually used to get there. Also, we have this little cutscene where Nihilus and Sion break up, and Nihilus doesn't take it very well, and like any abusive boyfriend, he then decides to crush his spirit. However, I then do get the Force Power Force Enlightenment, which essentially is just all my other Force powers but put into one at a cheaper cost, so that just makes me super efficient. Also, when I get back on the Ebon Hawk and Atton tells us we have to go, Visas decides she tries to have a deep emotional conversation with me, but since I'm a calf lover, I just tell her that I don't have time to talk. But it's time for us to go back to my favourite planet of Telos. God, I hate this planet. But we're here as the Handmaiden, and we have to try our best not to kill all our sisters, and I won't lie, this fight was actually quite difficult for me. Then Atris turns up and just slanders us because she's a bit jealous, and I essentially two-tap her. And basically because I do that, she calls me a naive fool for falling in love with the Exile, which is a fair thing to do. A lot of people seem to die when my character's around. And he's also autistic, so doesn't understand how feelings works. I mean, we fought naked 3 times and he's still not gotten the hint. But I do turn up to save Handmaiden, and Atris runs at me and dies before she actually gets to me. Sadly, I only two-tap her, which was quite annoying. For the first smart AI to actually exist in this game, she actually retreats to her meditation chamber where I won't have a range advantage. Sadly for her, she stood 10 feet away, so I did manage to get shots off before she got to me, and once again I only two-tapped her, which was once again upsetting, but my god, if she was closer I would have died. After I leave, she says she loves me. Would have been better to say it to my face. I mean, my guy wouldn't have understood it. He's not got any hint any character's told him yet. But back on Telos, I had this issue where all my companions were spawning with no health, and once again I met a soldier that's just like me. He saw a woman and like any reasonable person, he just killed himself. But we meet up with Mandalore again, who's busy glazing his own people, and I'm forced to take this blind woman into battle even though I told her she'll be no good to me. The revenge is simple, all we have to do is plant bombs and kill Darth Nihilus. Making our way through while killing people, this man's yawning while being shot to death, which was really weird. Visas has Stockholm Syndrome, and she decides that she's going to walk into her own cell. She also then decides to be evil, which does not fit with my character. I followed up by finding Make Onderon great again, man. He's really depressed because he doesn't think this guy's going to save Onderon, so I tell him to help us because, well, he's not going to save Onderon, which he gladly obliges to. But on the bridge, we finally get to Darth Nihilus, the villain that the game's been hyping up the entire time, so I'm expecting a great fight.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Yeah, this took me 13 minutes to do because Visas died in about 20 seconds, and Mandalore did survive a good 3 minutes, but obviously he then just died, so I spent the entire fight running around and shooting Nihilus until eventually I dwindled down his health. When you get him to half health, Visas then decides I can kill myself to make him weak, which I was tempted to do because she was completely useless in the first half, but I decide death would be a mercy, so I force her to live. In the second half though, I do keep my companions alive, so instead of 13 minutes it only takes me 7. Before anyone tries to slander me, that is because I do have a mod to make all the Sith Lords stronger. And we round off Telos by getting some fan service from the first game with Carth and Bastila turning up and mentioning Revan. This game was set up so perfectly for a third game and it was just fumbled. And we round off the game with Malachor V, pretty much ending where it all began. And I won't lie, as a kid I hated this place mainly because my main character couldn't even beat the Storm Beast, but here, well, I killed them before they can even get to me, which makes this so much easier. I also need to kill them so the remote section later on isn't awful, so that was helpful. After a while though, we get to do another Mira versus Honha fight because obviously this man just can't leave us alone. So basically, yeah, we just kind of one-tap him. I can't lie, it was really, really easy. But it was a nice end to their story. We followed it up by having to fight a giant storm beast in this area, which I'm pretty sure if I was doing melee, I would have died because my god, he ate my health when he was there. But luckily for me, I almost kill him before he gets to me. Remember when I said as a kid I couldn't kill the storm beast as my main? Well, that made this section with remote so much harder. See, well, in this run, they're all dead, so I can kind of go from A to B, but my god, I basically soft-locked myself because earlier, when I was a kid, I just couldn't get through this area. I mean, yeah, for some reason, remote has 120 odd health, but my god, he just can't do anything, so if you get caught, you do just die. I can't lie, if you were stuck in a room with storm beast as remote, it was basically being like in a jail cell with purple lacquer. But instead, I did it quite easily because I killed everything, and Goto turns up and tells me his balls are bigger than mine and says, well, basically he's just going to dominate me. But instead of a fun Friday evening, HK turns up and decides he's going to kill Goto, who has a really depressing death, just saying he wants to help the Republic. I then get to skip over to where Krey is just killing our entire team, where Atton decides he's going to be smart and runs away. Sadly, he runs into Darth Sion, and he promptly just gets one-tapped here. I thought it was bullshit, so I decided I was going to redo the entire save. But the bonus of doing that, I got to see Goto die again, which was kind of cool. However, I died as Atton again, and for some reason the scene played out with him facing the wrong way. And on my third attempt, he just didn't trigger the cutscene at all, so I had to physically walk up to Sion to trigger the cutscene. But third time's a charm, and he died and I managed to get away, so I didn't have to have a really sad ending. The Atreus Academy is honestly kind of a bit of a flop of a final level. I mean, compare that to the Star Forge in the first game, which was actually quite difficult, this was really easy. Basically, all you do is run into a room where there's about 5 people, kill them all, and then you just kind of rinse and repeat, occasionally waiting to heal up. Don't get me wrong, there were a few times where I was kind of close to dying, but none of them was really squeaky bum time worries. You also have decision where you can either go to your party members, which will quote unquote make you weaker, or just go the other way, but you have to fight enemies both ways, and if you save your party, you're not even weaker for it, so there's actually no drawback. But if I save my teammates, I do get to have a wholesome conversation with Mandalore. He's also probably the only guy that recorded voice lines for this section, which wouldn't surprise me considering this is cut content. But we get to Sion, which is the penultimate boss and the penultimate enemy of this entire game. And the fight was a bit easier than I expected. Like, don't get me wrong, I did die, but essentially he's the same as me. He's a glass cannon. Hits hard, crumbles fast. And just like with Nihilus, this entire fight was me running around in circles, buffing myself, taking a few shots, and then continuing to run around. Don't get me wrong, occasionally I would stand my ground, but it just wasn't worth trading blows with him. And unlike the Nihilus fight, this one only took me 10 minutes complete, opposed to the 17 it took me to beat him. It does also help that you get to just keep gaslighting him until eventually he does kill himself. But that sets it up for the final boss of the game, Darth Traya, who's also Kreia. And I won't lie, the first phase of this fight did take me 3 minutes, but that's not 3 minutes because I thought she was hard, it was 3 minutes because I decided I was going to go look what in these corpses in the final area, and all the loot was genuinely awful. It's kind of underwhelming considering she's meant to be the strongest of the Sith, but she's somehow the weakest we fight out of everyone, and that might be because of the mods I had, so maybe it doesn't affect her, but it was just really underwhelming. But in the fight, I shoot from the chest and naturally her hand falls off because why wouldn't it? And in phase 2, she summons 3 lightsabers. But if you're looking at the gameplay in the background, you can see that they essentially didn't really do anything and I just kind of traded blows because they were that weak. Also, if you kill Kreia, you don't have to actually defeat the lightsabers, which makes it just focus on her. But like any good person, after I beat an old woman to death, I essentially forced her to tell me about my future and then tell her to go kill herself. And just like Sion, she happily obliges. And with that, it's over. Atton's there, stood loving and charming like he didn't die 3 times beforehand, and we get a walk into the sunset knowing that I just beat KOTOR 2 with only crafted items.